How do you spell your last name?
G-W-I-N.
NBC News in Roanoke, Virginia.
Were you surprised about the statement of being voted unanimously as first black federal judge in Alabama?
I was very pleasantly surprised by the unanimity of the vote.
So what has this meant to you going through all this? How did you feel when you were going through waiting for the final vote?
Well, it was a feeling of anxiety that that I had and my family as well. I felt that ultimately the situation would be all right. I had no idea, though, that the committee would vote me out by such a sizable margin.
Do you have any comments on being the first black federal judge in Alabama?
No.
Did you expect this?
I had expected after the nomination by Senator Heflin and Senator Stewart last summer, I had expected to be among the first two black federal judges in Alabama.
Hoping for number one?
Not necessarily.
What would it have meant if you hadn't been number one?
Well, I don't know that it would have meant anything as to whether I'm number one or two in terms of being appointed to the federal bench. I believe that had the nomination been defeated, a number of persons who were willing to continue their faith in the system might have had that faith questioned very seriously.
If the outcome had not been, if you had not been elected as a federal judge, how would you have coped with this?
Well, I've been a lawyer all of my professional life, and my law license would still have been viable, and I would have continued to practice law. My early ambition was to be a lawyer, and as I said at various times to my supporters, in the event that worse came to worse and the committee saw fit not to approve me for the judgeship, I was prepared to continue in the role of a civil rights lawyer and as a senator in the state of Alabama.
Who gave you some of the best support during this time? Who were your biggest supporters?
My support was, I think, fairly widespread among both blacks and whites, and I don't know that I would do justice if I should try to single out any particular supporters at this point.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we'll need some...
An earlier marriage.
How old is
He's
he?
13 years old.
Ah.
I'm eagerly awaiting a decision of the Supreme Court in the next 2 weeks, hopefully, dealing with the question of whether the 10% minority set-aside of the 77 Pee-wee Act's project is constitutional. That has a direct bearing on the recent ordinance that the city of Birmingham enacted, setting a goal of 15% of city contracting business for minority contractors. As you may know, that ordinance has been challenged by the Alabama Associated General Contractors, and we've tried the case and are now awaiting a decision from the circuit judge here in Birmingham. That decision will probably not come down prior to the time that the Supreme Court decides the larger issue.
Harold, what are you taking, a two-shot?
Get another side and get a shot of it.
Did you get a listening?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Close up on you, then
Okay.
both of them.
Then we'll get the whole gang here, like they're working. We'll get out of your way. Go try to get this on the
One of those days we just don't feel like doing anything, you know?
I was right in the middle of my psychiatrist story about how the recession is creating depression.
Yeah. Well, it's creating depression in any number of.
Started to
Yeah,
that
sure.
in my story, and I was
sure.
right in the middle of that when they said, "Hey, rush down to UW Clemens
Yeah.
office," and I said, "Okay, but let me, So I had to change my thinking there a bit and get off onto this.
The economic situation for a lot of Americans is very analogous to the Great Depression. For poor folks who, unlike in the 30s when I guess most folks had their gardens in their backyard, it's just difficult for families to make it from week to week.
It's not as easy to be poor nowadays, is what you're saying.
Oh, no, it is not. Not by any
Right.
stretch of the imagination. And one just has to wonder if there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I don't think anybody sees it now. I think it's going to have some rather profound repercussions in the November elections. But
We may not be at the depth, though, where we, to the point where people are going to. You don't think Carter's going to be elected again, huh?
well, I'm hoping that the president will be reelected, but I think that unless the economic situation changes
It's not going to change.
significantly, I think he's going to have a difficult time with
Yeah.
Mr. Reagan.
I don't see
Although
how,
I must say I don't see that Mr. Reagan's programs
that much
promise
more,
anything
no.
more.
I don't see how anything could change that much before November either. Just even recovery from something would
Yeah.
take longer than November,
Yeah.
even if we were in recovery.
It may have been
Somebody writes something.
more the client wanted a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Maybe the lawyer.
Yeah.
This wouldn't be staged. What did you hear?
May
You
have
gotta
some.
have cover shots. You don't have to have cover shots. It's a lot easier when you don't
I
need to
get
do
it.
that.
Explore that stuff. I'm still amazed at the loss of Sugar Ray Leonard.
Did you see the fight?
No, I didn't
Yeah.
see the fight, but Stevie
I saw
assured
it.
me that he
But
did
this
not
is
lose.
the third
He did
cost
not
the
lose.
half hour show. And
Why did he knock him out still?
No, he didn't knock him out.
I know.
Now we
Why?
have a repeating stage now.
Didn't he knock him out?
At the end of the fight, they said that it was a split decision. Then they said somebody's scorecard was wrong. They went back over it. One more. And they
I think
said,
that was something really well stacked up.
Was it worth your money?
Well, I understand that not only were the fights on the screen worth no money, but the fights in the stand.
Well, even better.
Didn't several people get shot
I didn't know.
over the fight? Wasn't it over the fight?
No, a lot of people were angry because it was black and white.
Because what?
Everybody was
But there was
expecting
a
color.
Oh, it was not in color.
Okay.
I would have been angry.
And people
The
pay,
people
what,
in
$20,
Mobile,
$25,
The people in Mobile only got
Well, when you see
Only got audio.
What? They got their money back already. Some of
they
them
got their
money
money.
back.
So they call
The
cover
crowd was very angry.
This is for all those
Sure,
times.
man.
when she was not
Of course,
You're on camera, yeah.
it's gonna be on TV.
Yeah, you know, the show ended.
What? On Saturday?
Also
They
come
said-
in and
What, this? What, the TV?
When do you think the conference
Sometime next week.
3 weeks from now.
and then 10 days, within 10 days, you have to.
I have to invest.
businesses where the opportunity
is say you care in much the same way. Bonnie Hayes, NBC News, Chicago.
And if you're in the market for roses, local florists tell us the price for a dozen lawn stems will cost you about $40.
Remember D.B. Cooper? He was big news on Thanksgiving Eve 1971 as he became the first man to ever hijack an airplane for money. Cooper made headlines all over the country for hijacking the Northwest Airlines and collecting $200,000 in ransom. Somewhere over the Pacific Northwest, he bailed out of the plane, never to be heard from again, but now some of the money is turned up.
And housing with their children. Mr. and Mrs. Harold Delaney.
One of the most important things to know about 35mm is how to use the f-stop. Well, here's another important f-stop. Fox photo. The fast photo finish will be
30 seconds.
Think of the f-stop. Fox photo. Where your pictures are in
Moving right along here.
Here he comes, say the day.
Is this all being recorded now?
I don't think this is
Yes, there is.
There is sound? Hello,
Hello, hello, hello.
2420.
Okay, is there anything special? Do you want me to say?
Yeah, we could maybe talk about why the games haven't even opened yet and they're already playing. Program today. I didn't think they were afraid of it. I don't think they're that much.
Bill Street Discount Wallpaper Department is having a sale. Right now, selecting over 1,000 rolls of used in-stock wallpaper with 30% off retail price. This is the largest selection of wallpaper in Alabama. $40. Hot coat, solid wood flooring, $1.99 a square foot. Selected roof size carpet, $2.99 a square yard. And indoor, outdoor carpet, $3.99 a square yard. Come in today to Bill Street Discount Wall Coverings and Carpet, Highway 31 South in Pelham.
Well, I think first of all, you need to clear up something. The Olympics are underway, but yet we really haven't had the opening ceremony. Why?
I wish I had an answer. I don't know. I told you I would give you an honest answer when I could, ma'am. I really don't know, except that maybe the hockey schedule is so complex that they needed to get an extra jump. Well, as you heard earlier in this newscast, the International Olympic Committee says the Moscow Olympics will go on as scheduled. The committee rejected President Carter's call for the games to be moved or canceled because of the Soviet actions in Afghanistan. The decision came as the Winter Olympics began at Lake Placid. Competition there opened with hockey, where the United States played Sweden to a 2-2 tie. It took a goal with just 27 seconds left in the game for the U.S. to pull even with the Swedes in an upset. Elsewhere on the ice at Lake Placid, it was Canada bombing Holland 10-1. Look at this. Czechoslovakia, considered the only other team to give Russia a run for its money, shut out Norway 11-0. And after 2 periods of play, the Soviets have Japan 12-0. I hope they haven't taken any prisoners. But political charges and counter-charges have almost dominated talk of the Olympics. But you might notice that most of that talk comes from the politicians, not the athletes. Such is the case with America hoping for a gold medal in Paris figure skating competition. Time Babylonia, Randy Gardner. Here's a report.
The 1979 World Pairs champions are favorites here in Lake Placid. Their only strong challenge will be from Russia's Irina Rodnina and Alexander Zaitsev. Americans against Russians. There is no animosity between these skaters. For them, politics is not.